Hi all, and welcome back to GISC 126, Fundamentals of GIS. Today's lecture is all about map projections. So, a map projection transforms the geographic coordinates on an ellipsoid into locations on a plane. So the outcome of this transformation process is a systematic arrangement of the latitudes and longitudes on a flat surface representing the geographic coordinate system. So unlike a geographic coordinate system, a projection coordinate system has constant lengths, angles, and areas across the two dimensions. So a map projection allows us to work with plane coordinates rather than latitude and longitude values, which were decimal degrees, which is more complex. So projections is the process that transforms three-dimensional space into a two-dimensional map. And so here we can see on the left, we have this, our ellipsoid using degrees, latitude, and longitude. And now we have to take this spherical thing and project it onto a flat two-dimensional piece of paper. So we can now make better measurements, angles, and so forth. So an ellipsoid can't be flattened onto a plane any more easily than a piece of orange peel can be flattened. It's going to rip, stretch, scrunch, or one of all three of these. Therefore, representing the Earth's surface on a two dimensions causes distortion in either the shape, area, distance, or direction of the map data. So imagine if you had an orange peel and you were able to peel it nice and round, put it on your desk, and push that orange peel down. It's going to stretch, rip, scrunch, and so forth, just like you taking a globe, a spheroid of the Earth, and putting it on the surface of your desk and pushing it out too. There's going to be some kind of distortion. So before we get any further discussion of map projections, I want to illustrate why using the correct projection for your map is so important. So here is a map of census tracts in Toronto, Canada. And I suspect you're not familiar with how the geometric shape of the polygon should be, but they should not be slanted to the left. Rather, the polygons are defined in relationship to the city streets. But most of, if not all, the streets in Toronto are perpendicular to one another. But they don't look like this in the map. This means they use the wrong projection. If you try to measure anything on this map, it would be incorrect. So the polygons should look like this map. Notice how this new map, the polygons are perpendicular, like you would expect. So you can sometimes find these errors in using wrong projections. So this graphic is a conceptual model of how map projections are created. So for example, by placing a cylinder tangent to the lighted globe here, one can draw the projection by tracing the lines of latitude and longitude onto the cylinder. The cylinder is a reference, is also called the developable surface, and the globe is the reference globe. So this is kind of just a conceptual model. Map projections are actually created by these complicated mathematical equations that we don't need to concern ourselves with. We just have to know that we need to take the geographic coordinate system and project that to make a map projection so we can do more accurate measurements. So map projections are classified according to their geometric surface. It's also called developable surface, from which they are derived. So here are the three most common types of developable surfaces. The first is cylindrical, conic, and planar. And planar is also referred to as muthal. So a cylindrical projection uses a cylinder, a conic projection uses a cone, and a planar uses a plane. Simple enough. So a tangent line, also referred to as a standard parallel, is where the globe touches the developable surface along a latitude, which is illustrated here in this dark black horizontal line at the top. Along this standard parallel, there is no distortion. So along that line, we have correct area, we have correct shape, correct distances. But that is only along the standard parallel. On the other hand, the secant projection intersects the globe at two locations. So there is no distortion along these two lines. The tangent and secant lines are important since scale is constant along the two lines, and therefore there is no distortion, as I said. It's also called a scale factor is equal to 1. Such lines of true scale are called standard lines. So these are lines of equal distances. Distortion increases by moving away from these standard lines. So for example, if you move north and south, distortion is going to increase. And the further away you get from these standard parallels, the greater the distortion is. So a planar projection, on the other hand, has a point of tangency. It's not a line, it's just a simple little black point. Again, at this point, there is no distortion, but as you move away from that point, the distortion increases. So aspect refers to how this developable surface is placed over the globe. In the cylindrical aspect, the developable surface can touch the globe along a line of latitude, called normal case, a line of longitude, called a transverse case, or another line, called oblique case. In planar aspect, a plane is placed over the globe. The plane can touch the globe at either the pole, polar case, or the equator, which is called an equatorial case, or another line called an oblique case. For a conic projection, the cone is usually placed at either the north or south pole, but could be placed anywhere on the globe. So no projection is going to allow us to flatten the globe without distorting it. That's just not possible. So distortion ellipses help us visualize what type of distortion a map projection has caused, how much distortion occurred, and where it occurred. The ellipses show us imaginary circles on the globe are deformed because of a particular projection. If no distortion had occurred in the process of projecting the map, all the ellipses that we see here in blue would be the same size and circular in shape. So in this example, we can see that the ellipses are circular but vary in size. That is, they get larger as you move away from the equator, where the line of tangency is, and therefore no distortion to maximize distortion at the poles. To maximum distortion at the poles, I should say. Excuse me. When positions on the reticular are transformed to positions on a projected grid, 4 types of distortions can occur. Distortion of size, angle, distances, and directions. Map projections that avoid one or more of these types of distortions are said to preserve certain properties of the globe, which are conformal, equal area, equal distance, and true direction. So in this video lecture, I will only discuss conformal and equal area projections, but you need to read about the other 2. So if a map preserves shape, then feature outlines, like the country boundaries here, show the same on the map as if they do on the Earth. A map that preserves shape is called conformal. Even a conformal map, shapes are a bit distorted for very large areas, like continents. To preserve individual angles describing the spatial relationship, a conformal projection must show the perpendicular reticulars, or these lines that intersect at 90-degree angles on the map. A map projection accomplishes this by maintaining all angles. The drawback is that the area enclosed by a series of arcs may be greatly distorted in the process, and we can see that. This is a common Mercator projection map that is shown in most places, definitely most schools. But what do you notice about these circles? Well, along the equator, they're nice and round, but as you move towards the poles, those circles get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we're preserving the shape, but area is being distorted. So, for example, a classic example is looking at Greenland. Greenland is gigantic on this map. It is bigger than Africa, when in fact Greenland is extremely small and Africa is quite large. So we have to distort size in order to preserve the shape. So this is kind of a Mercator projection. So if a map preserves area, then the size of a feature on a map is the same relative to its size on the Earth. To do this, other properties, shape, angle, and scale, are distorted. Notice how the ellipses are distorted, but the area for each ellipse is equal. So equal area projections are useful when you want to calculate or compare sizes of area, like countries, acres of wheat grown, so forth. So conformal and equal area are mutually exclusive properties, whereas equal area projections distort shapes while preserving the fidelity of size. Conformal projections distort the size in the process of preserving shapes. So here, as you can see in this equal area, if you look at these continents, they look quite distorted, right? They don't look as we would expect. South America and Africa are very elongated. But what we're trying to portray here is a map that's going to be good for comparing areas. So if we want to compute the land square miles of these continents, this would be the correct projection to use, not the projection we just looked at. On that note, have a great day.